Now, an example of cougar excellence in our communities.
We're one of the first towns in Texas to turn 200 years old.
Tonight, we recognize community members keeping Crosby's history alive. 2023 marked Crosby's bicentennial. The Crosby Historical Society has spent the last 3 years remodeling, building, and collecting artifacts inside their museum, a small building on Runnenberg and Pecan Street that they lease from the district for $1 a year.
Dad, on his deathbed, said, "Keep the Historical Society going." So I inherited those two from a promise to my dad. I'll get involved with the Crosby Historical Society, but I love it. It was in my blood already.
2 board members, Jody Fox and Donna Davenport, recently took our cameras on a tour. We asked them to share 10 of their favorite artifacts.
We really wanted a story behind everything that was put in here.
Number 10, photographs of the namesakes of Crosby. Crosby was known as Gentry as early as 1859, named after railroad owner Abram Gentry. One of the older items in the museum is a desk that sat in the original railroad station in 1860. Gentry eventually became Crosby, named after banker Josiah Fraser Crosby. In fact, the first mention of Crosby as the new name for the town was in 1877. By the way, there's likely no truth to the rumor that Crosby was once called Lick Skillet.
It's a term that it implies that you've arrived at an event too late to eat any food, and the only thing left to do is to lick the skillet. And so that's how it kind of came about.
But you're saying there's no records of that?
It never appeared on any voting rolls or census data, anything like that. Prior to Gentry, census data had everybody living in Lynchburg.
Number 9, a painting of the Pecan Orchard where Crosby High School now stands. One row of pecan trees can still be seen behind GameStop on 2100.
This is sort of that new community that's being built behind the high school. This is what it looked like before then. It was a cattle field. In fact, in front of this sat a large pecan orchard, which is where Walmart is today.
Is that why it's called Pecan Estates then?
Yes.
It is,
Yes.
yeah.
Number 8, Crosby ISD artifacts, including a school desk from the first schoolhouse and yearbooks dating from 1937 to the present day. Number 7, Crosby Sports Association and Cougar gear. Crosby colors were once maroon, maybe even green.
They were red and white, but prior to that, were maroon and white. And I think even before then, there was actually a couple of years there where they were green, if I had to go back and look. I think they played in green jerseys one year for basketball.
Number 6, a bottle from 1910 belonging to Crosby's first public doctor, J.E. Cutler.
But at that moment in time, they thought that maybe getting out of the city would help you. So he built a large hospital here between Crosby and Highlands.
Number 5, an electric meter dating from the 1940s. Electricity first came to Crosby in 1913.
There weren't meters at first. You just paid a monthly fee for when you wanted the electricity, whether you wanted it all day long or whether you just wanted it for certain hours of the evening.
Number 4, a wall-sized painting that graces the museum's welcome area. It dates back to the 1950s or 60s and features famous Texas wars, including the Alamo and the Battle of San Jacinto. The painting used to hang at the Turf Motel.
It's on loan. It's kind of cool. I don't know what it's worth, but the guy thinks it's worth a lot. We'll find out someday, maybe. So.
Number 3, military artifacts.
And so locally, there have actually been a couple of cannonballs found.
Also, a gun barrel that marked a grave of an early pioneer.
He was clearing land over there by Tractor Supply, so it was poked about 8 inches into the soil there, and so for 150 years it basically stayed in the same spot, marking this grave of this early pioneer. We don't know who it was, but somebody in there.
And one of our local heroes, First Sergeant David McNerney, who earned the military's highest honor, the Medal of Honor, for almost single-handedly saving soldiers during a battle in Vietnam. There are also wildlife treasures, including the last red wolf killed in Crosby in 1983, one of the largest wild hogs ever killed in Crosby, and an illegal fish stunner that looks like an old telephone. Number 2, a typewriter used in the oil fields. Oil was the industry that brought people to Crosby after the cotton market collapsed at the end of World War I.
And I just always thought it was real cute. Then the story came out. My uncle used it in the oil fields, and when I was going through her pictures, lo and behold, there was the typewriter in the picture.
And number 1, time capsules. One inside the museum dates from 1924. The flag you can see has 48 stars. There's another time capsule buried outside the museum. The Crosby High School class of 1986 plans to be back for their 50th reunion.
Student contacted me and said, "Is our time capsule still there?" It's a big old piece of concrete. I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "We're planning to get together if we're all still alive and come dig this up to see what we buried."
Did they tell you at all what they put in there?
No, I didn't. He didn't tell me.
The Historical Society plans to bury a time capsule to mark Crosby's 200th birthday.
I never realized this town had as much history as it did. It's one of the oldest towns in Texas. We think it's probably around number 13 in age.
We've got to keep it alive. We've got to find kids. And kids, if you're at this meeting and listening to this, we need a younger generation to train and bring in to keep this history going.
Crosby ISD and the Board of Trustees salute you, Crosby Historical Society, our community members of the month.